I've had a pretty amazing life. I've been a rock musician, played in various bands, went solo for a couple of years. Nice perm. I've had a hit single, recorded an album, did a European tour supporting the American rock band Boston. I ran a recording studio in London for many years, writing a lot of songs there and doing music for TV. And I ran a voiceover training company there called Big Mouth Productions. I've even had a taste of fame and fortune as a TV presenter, and that's led me to quite a few different experiences. It's been quite a journey. But how did it all start? Well, I was born in the lovely Yorkshire town of Ilkley, surrounded by the beautiful Ilkley Moors. We lived in a drafty old semi-detached house on Skipton Road, where the winters were really cold. I remember ice on the inside of our bedroom window in the mornings and steam coming off my vest as I aired it getting dressed in front of the gas fire. But it was a house full of life and a lot of love. We weren't wealthy. Dad was a wool merchant and the wool business was difficult, but we managed. This is my dad, Jack Groff, and this is my mum, Mary. And this is Jack and Mary when they were on their honeymoon in Silverdale. I have a sister, Penny, and a brother, David, or Diddles as he sometimes got called. I'm the baby of the family, sitting on Penny's knee. And when this photo of Penny and David was taken, I hadn't even been born yet. But Penny remembers this time very well, because she was up to a bit of mischief.
I remember you with that, and I remember smashing your cup down, and it had a little turtle at the bottom, or something like that, didn't it?
It had something at the bottom, I don't know what it was.
And this is where all three of us started school, the Grove School in Ilkley, which was run by Miss Sutton. And this is the very first stage I ever set foot upon. I played the wind in a school play there. It's also where I was told my voice was too loud to join the choir. Dad recalls just how keen I was to start my school life in one of his many letters to his mother.
Michael starts school this week and is not at all keen on the idea. Each morning he says, "Only so many days now before I begin school," as though it was his doom. Last week we went to Leeds to get Penny fixed up with her new uniform for Oaklands. Fortunately, Monica let us have a beautiful camel coat, hardly worn and just the right size. Also gym slip and things like that, so we are very grateful. Nevertheless, the bill at Leeds was still nearly £15. The children are all well, and I'm enjoying every minute I have with them. They are, each one of them, completely different and so interesting. Penny is really coming on, and is a considerate child, except when it comes to bedtime and the TV is good. David is still Old Faithful, and Mike couldn't care a damn for anyone. He's completely independent.
And you weren't wrong, Dad. I was always pretty happy in my own space, I think. Give me a spade and a beach, and I'd be fine. Our family spent a lot of our holidays in Primrose Valley near Filey, where Mum's sister Dot and her husband Bill had their lovely holiday home. Bill left us with a fantastic record of our two families growing up via a 16mm movie camera, quite a rarity in those days. Here's Dot and Mum on the amazing beach in Primrose Valley. And there's Penny and Cousin Jane. Dad with his Kodak camera. And here's Cousin Pete doing his bit for the Yorkshire Water Board. The North Sea was always absolutely freezing. I would think they're probably singing Ring a Ring a Roses here just to keep themselves warm. Life was very different in the 50s. The war had changed everyone's life. Mum and Dot had lost their brother Peter. Dad had fought the Japanese in Burma, got shot in the leg, but survived. He met my mother at a Heaton Tennis Club dance soon after returning home. They were engaged within 3 weeks and had a double wedding with Dot and Bill on June the 28th, 1946. Life seemed a lot less complicated then. Simple things were appreciated in perhaps ways that wouldn't be now. Life was precious, and family was everything.
My merry band of kids are all fit and well, touch wood, and back at school again after 3 weeks' holiday. Michael seems to get more funny and amusing each day. David is as tough as steel, and Penny's a real teenager, and incidentally a real help to Mary in the kitchen. She's a good lass, and confidentially I think she's a teeny-weeny bit keen on Heinz. She often asks if he's coming this weekend, or when will he be seeing Heinz, Daddy? It's lovely to pull a leg.
We all have such wonderful memories of those happy times in Filey, and a lot of Dad's photos were taken on these magical holidays.
We've been invited to Filey to stay with the Butterfields. The family will stay on till the following weekend, so it'll do them a lot of good. They all need a change of air and a rest. Michael and David have had real graveyard coughs for some time now. I shall go back on the following Friday to fetch them back. Now you'll be able to imagine us all there, won't you? Sitting on the terrace, playing cricket, swimming, weather permitting, and generally having a beautifully lazy time. I think I shall sleep most of the time.
There was something quite magical about Filey. As soon as we got there, you could see Mum and Dad relaxing. Travelling the 80 miles there from Ilkley seemed like a real expedition, though. Cars were slower, there were no motorways, so it would take us a good few hours to get there, and normally involved a stop in the countryside for a little picnic. And as nice as the hard-boiled eggs were, we just wanted to get there. How we got everything in the car, though, was a miracle. A family of 5, a dog, maybe even an au pair. Still, where there's a will. I remember as we got near, Dad always offered 6pence for the first one to see the sea. The anticipation was amazing. We just couldn't wait to get there. As soon as we arrived and unloaded the car, we rushed down to the beach. Sometimes we'd walk to Filey along that beach, sometimes even further to the brig, where the waves crashed on the rocks and a little kiosk sold drinks and sun-pat raisins. Delicious. You could do nothing, or you could do a lot. There was plenty to choose from. There were fishing trips to go on, archery, boats to sail, cars to drive. The only problem was fitting it all in.
These are the shorts that I mentioned yesterday.
I still have.
Yeah, right.
Yes, and I still feel them just the same.
Yeah. See how much happier David looks there? Holding one of his
3-foot balls.
How much? Look, his body is.
I know.
I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm centred.
Yeah,
I've got
and
the
you
ball
were
in my hand.
absolutely.
I'm bloody free.
You did amuse yourself, though, you must admit. You had this sense of humour where you laughed at yourself, didn't you?
What does my face say there?
It says what you're thinking now. Prat.
Was I serious, child?
Yes, you were fairly serious.
Was it? I didn't think
Playing
it
with
was.
your swap-it.
I think body language here is really interesting.
That's,
You and Dad.
Well, you were very close.
That's
you
as we
and
walked
Dad.
into Filey.
I think that says a lot. Look, he's leaning towards you, are arm round him, and I'm there. And I think that's quite an interesting photo.
You look a bit upset.
Yeah. And I think there were times that I did feel quite out on the
Did
outside
you?
because
Did you?
yes, Dad and Dave were very clear when I
You were
met.
very, very close.
It's a lovely photo. I love that photo.
We were a typical happy family, I suppose. Bit of sibling rivalry, friendly and sometimes not so friendly fights. All those summers in Filey saw the children from our 2 families grow up side by side. Brothers, sisters and cousins, sharing rooms, discoveries and even clothes. Paddling together, playing games and generally having a lot of fun. All those long sunny days during those 7-week school holidays seemed to last forever. And here's the youngest member of the 2 families. This is my cousin Mark in his pram. Now, is that excitement, or did he need his nappy changing? Trying to get 6 children organised for the family photo shoot was no easy task, though, especially when Mark decided he wasn't quite ready for his close-up yet. Happy times.
Dated 5th December 1958. Did you know that we now have a dog? When I got back from my trip, I found her already firmly ensconced in the family. Actually, it's the Butterfields Cocker Spaniel. They asked us if we would like her because young Mark is terribly cruel to her, and her life is a misery. She's settling down well, and you can imagine the joy the kids have, especially Penny. Otherwise, life goes on, just the same as ever.
Bringing up a young family in Ilkley in the 50s must have been quite a challenge, though. The house was big and drafty, with no central heating at all. But a Rayburn in the snug and 2 open fires certainly helped. Christmas round the lounge fire was really special. Dad would play the guitar, and we'd all sing along. We had quite a large garden, and although Dad wasn't the keenest of gardeners, over the years he made it into something really lovely. A wonderful place for children to grow up and play in. Big enough for a dog, Horace the tortoise. We even had a goose called George, until he attacked me. No computers or mobile phones in those days. We had our imagination and a dad who could turn his talents to most things.
I made David and Michael a boxcar, an old box with pram wheels on, and steered by a rope, and they're both thrilled beyond words. It's far more exciting than a beautiful 10-guinea job, and they spend nearly all day going down the lawn and up again. The drive is for Bolton.
This was the drive in the early 50s. And here it is in the 60s, looking all spick and span, with the garden in full bloom. It looked right across the valley up to the Monk's Retreat, where my sister Penny got married. In those days, we didn't stray far from home most of the time, apart from visits to grandparents in our Sunday best.
That was at the cottage, Nana and Ogie's
Farm.
cottage, yeah, Bankbottom Farm. I just seem to remember that skirt that I got from somebody else, I think. Can't remember who it was, but I loved it. I used to remember the fabric of things, the touch.
I only remember Ogie being bedridden. That's the strongest memory of all.
Pa Griffiths had to go back to hospital about 2 weeks ago for a blood clot, somewhere in the stomach or that region, I think. According to Dot, Margie is in a bad way. Can't eat or keep anything down, goes into dizzy spells, etc. The doctor can't find anything organically wrong and attributes it to reaction, etc. Margie is still in Salts Hospital and has to stay another week or so.
I love that lighting. So
Where
is that
was
you,
that?
Penny? Is that you?
Yes, but
At the front?
I think it was Saltaire. You know.
It's either Saltaire or York, and I think that was Saltaire.
I think it was, David. No,
when we went
never
to see
thought
Ogie
about
in the
that.
hospital.
Is this
That
the
was
same
outside
day?
the
Is that
hospital.
the same day?
Yep.
Gosh,
But I don't know whether we went in.
you're sticking your tongue out there.
Our maternal grandfather, Arthur Wilson Griffiths, or Ogie as we called him, spent his last few years battling against prostate cancer. Had it not been for our grandmother Nana's wonderful bedside care, Ogie's life would no doubt have been considerably shorter. Sadly, we lost Ogie in the early 1960s. Nana lived on for another 12 years, always maintaining that her maiden name of Bowes related her to royalty, no less. Nana and Ogie lived just 2 minutes' walk away from Dot and Bill's beautiful home, Mythome. I spent many holidays here, as my cousin Mark and I were really good friends. So whenever Mark was on holiday from school, I would go and stay at Mythome, or he would come over and stay at Ilkley, and we've remained the closest of friends up to this day. The 2 years age gap never really seemed to matter to us, as we shared a common love of the Man from U.N.C.L.E., Dinky and Corgi toys, fast cars, and when in Filey, Mr. Whippy ice cream, and Corrigan's, where we'd go and play the penny slot machines and lose all our pocket money. Most of the family members seemed rather reluctant subjects of Uncle Bill's cine camera, but I seemed to be exhibiting rather a fascination for it. The seeds for show business were obviously sown at a very early age, plus a love for Rowntree's pastels by the look of it, and a strange inclination to strangle as many people as possible, starting with my cousin Jane, and even moving on to my mother. Now, there in the deck chair is my father's mother, Weimar. Her maiden name was Greta Diedrichs, and she was born in Elberfeld in Germany. She became pen friends with my grandfather, John H. Groth, in the early 1900s and moved over to England to set up home in Bradford when they got married in 1910. They had 4 children, 3 girls, Gerda, Tita and Ursula, and Jack, my father. Dad was always really close to his mother, popped in to see her every night on his way back home from work, and wrote to her with all the family news whenever she was staying with her youngest daughter Ursula in Italy.
This is dated 13th of August 1959. Tomorrow is Penny's birthday, and I've got her some fish. I went to PD and helped myself to that fish tank in the pantry, and hope you don't mind, because they're very expensive to buy. Penny said she wanted something alive more than anything else, and fish seemed just about the easiest thing. Got her some plants and gravel, etc., so should be able to make her a nice pretty surprise for tomorrow morning. I haven't got her anything from you yet, but I'll ask her what she would like and get it later. I bought Penny a nice little Parker pen at B&M's on your account as the birthday present to her. It cost 24 shillings, and I think she's happier with that than with anything she ever had. I think I told you that we had a chance to stay an extra week in Filey and we grabbed it. The weather is still unbelievably good, although it's a bit windy today. But the sun continues to shine and water is becoming very scarce almost everywhere. Well, there's always beer to drink, and who wants to wash anyway?
Hated that day. Hated it. That was at the zoo.
Bellevue
Thought
Zoo.
everybody was... I just didn't want to be with the family.
Why?
Well, I just thought it was so...
You were that age?
In for a dig. You know, I was suddenly finding my own feet, and I thought...
I remember Mum's suede jacket,
Yes.
which I actually inherited eventually. Took down to London, I think.
David had his entrance exam to the big school last Saturday morning, and I think he'll have done okay. I'm hoping anyway. Did I tell you what a first-class report he got at Easter? He was second in the class, 25 of them, and in maths his position was second. He certainly doesn't get that from his father. His maths master's remark was, "A very good term's work. He deserves a pat on the back." The report is signed by the headmaster of Thornville, and right at the bottom, signed again by the headmaster of the big school. In Reading, he added, "Well done." So I think that was praise indeed, don't you? He's a little slogger, isn't he? I'm talking too much like a proud father, so I'll stop. Tomorrow we go to Filey for 1 week. As Michael has been so bad, the doctor said we either had to get him away or he'd put him in the coronation. He thought that the road work on Skipton Road was affecting his breathing, all the tar and dust. So last weekend I took him and Penny and the Griffiths to Filey, and they've been there all this week. So we join them tomorrow. It'll mean that Michael and Penny will have had a fortnight there, and I hope it does the little man some good. Last Monday bank holiday, we all went to the Butterfields in Harden and bathed in their pool. We had a lovely day. David is now very much at home in water and was doing most of his swimming underwater.
I'd never been to a swimming pool, ever, before we went there. I was excited to go. I thought, well, I'm going to love it, because everyone else was excited. And as soon as I got in the pool, I hated it.
Big
Because I didn't know.
disappointment.
I didn't know what to expect.
Disappointment.
I hated it.
You'd never seen a pool?
seen a pool. I'd never been taken to a pool. Not that I remember.
9th of August 1962. After one lovely week in Filey, we had beautiful weather in spite of it being very miserable here in Bradford. We were once again back to the grindstone, but feeling a lot better for the change and rest. We bathed every day but one, so you can imagine just how warm it was. It's got to be most inviting to get me in the North Sea. As a last treat of our holiday, I'm taking Mary and the Nippers for a meal to Burnsall tomorrow night. Michael hasn't been before and is looking forward to being grown up and eating out.
And in those days, eating out was a really special occasion. The Red Lion at Burnsall was a lovely old traditional hotel in the Dales. On arrival, we children would sit with a soft drink in the snug, while Mum and Dad would have a pre-dinner drink in the bar. Then we'd all be invited through to the formal dining room and have a fantastic meal cooked by Chef John Lund. David always ordered the Aylesbury duckling. Afterwards, we'd all go through to the lounge where coffee and Elizabeth Shaw mints were served. Wonderful times, and a very different world.
27th of August, 1964. We have a dog, a beautiful Labrador pup, 4.5 months. He really is a pet, and Mary's a different person. She thinks the world of him. We got him from one of the Butterfield farms near Beamsley and paid £10 for him, although he's supposed to be worth £40 or £50. Long pedigree, etc. We are all very thrilled with him. He's already house-trained after only 5 nights of messes, etc. on the snow floor, so you see he learns pretty readily. We call him Brack. It's Saturday morning now, and I have the 2 boys and the dog in the office with me. We drop Mary at Busby's, and we'll collect her about 11 a.m. I must say that it's a bit difficult to concentrate or get any jobs done with those 2 noisy young men rushing around the place, to say nothing of the dog.
Oh, I remember that skirt. You see, all these clothes I didn't buy, or Mum and Dad didn't buy. I got them from somebody else. I can't remember who it was. They were passed down. But I loved that.
That was a
I
nice
can
outfit.
remember the touch of it, like paper. Again, I loved the belt. I loved the black. It's funny that, isn't it?
You were cutting
How you
Michael's
remember.
hair then.
Yeah, you were.
I was.
That's right.
January 1965. All my little band is fit and happy. You should see David in his RAF cadet uniform. He joined the school OTC. He looks very smart and military. Michael still appears to amuse people more than anything else. Everyone remarks about him. There really is something very amusing about him. And he now has 2 boyfriends on the string, but we can tell you all about that when you return. Dot and Bill have invited the whole family to spend our holiday with them in Devon for the first 2 weeks in September. They've rented a house there, 50 guineas a week. I'm very thrilled because none of us have been to Devon before, and I'd love to see it. It's very kind of them, isn't it? 3rd of September 1968. We're now settled in again after our holidays in Devon. We had a lovely time. Weather the first week was not good, rainy and misty nearly all the time, but much warmer than up here. The second week was just as it ought to be, sunshine all day long. We fished, boated, I painted a couple of amateurish pictures that thoroughly enjoyed doing them. We ate like fighting cocks, slept a good 10 hours every night, played poker or roulette or pontoon every night. Michael or Mark seemed to do most of the winning. On the evening of Penny's birthday, we went to this little bistro in Dartmouth. I'd been there the day before to fix a menu, and they really did us proud. Candlelit table, a 21st key at Penny's plate, melon to start with, steak with all sorts of vegetables, 3 different sorts of potatoes, lots of green salads, French dressed, then a lovely gâteau with candles on, followed by enormous dishes of fruit, cheese, coffee, all swilled down with a couple of bottles of red wine. It was a success. You should have seen the lads packing it away. I've never seen Michael eat so much. We missed you. I know you'd have loved every minute of it.